In the high-stress, calorie-rich landscape of the modern world, chronic disease is not an exception, it is the default. We spend billions chasing cures for diabetes, heart disease, and obesity, yet the answer might be found in a lifestyle perfected 2,500 years ago, far from any pharmaceutical lab or celebrity nutritionist. Imagine a population with virtually zero incidence of lifestyle-driven disease, whose members routinely live long, healthy lives, fueled by the simplest of meals. This is not a fantasy. This is the reality of the Buddhist monastic tradition, where food is not a source of pleasure, nor a quick energy fix, but a deliberate form of medicine. They understood a secret we have forgotten: the profound healing power of intentional restriction and mindful consumption. The question is, how did they turn a daily necessity into a spiritual and physiological practice, and why has our modern diet, rich in choice and convenience, left us so profoundly sick? Before we delve into the ancient wisdom of the Vinaya, take a moment to subscribe and like this video. It helps this essential knowledge reach those who need to relearn the true purpose of nourishment. The secret to the monks' remarkable health is not a specific superfood or an expensive supplement. It is an entire philosophy codified in the Vinaya Pitaka, the basket of discipline, which governs every aspect of a monk's life, especially their relationship with food. For them, eating is a sacred act, a means to an end, enlightenment. When you transform food from an object of desire into a functional tool, everything changes. The monastic diet is inherently preventative, designed to minimize both physical and spiritual suffering. To understand their diet is to understand why our modern relationship with food is fundamentally broken. The foundation of the Buddhist monastic diet rests upon the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha. Having experimented with extreme asceticism, starving himself nearly to death, the Buddha ultimately rejected both indulgence and severe deprivation, advocating for the middle way. This principle dictates moderation in all things, particularly consumption. Food in this context must be viewed as a necessary fuel for the body to sustain the practice of meditation and spiritual study, not as an end in itself. This philosophy immediately removes the emotional and psychological baggage that plagues modern eating habits. Food is divorced from entertainment, reward, and distraction. The rules governing the monastic diet are incredibly detailed, laid out primarily in the Vinaya. These rules are not merely guidelines, they are strict boundaries that ensure physical health, mental clarity, and ethical purity. One of the most critical rules is the restriction on eating times. Traditionally, monks consume only 2 meals a day, the first early in the morning and the second before noon. After solar noon, consumption of solid food is strictly prohibited. This practice, known today by modern science as intermittent fasting, was instituted thousands of years ago not for weight loss, but for spiritual discipline. The digestive system is given a long rest period, allowing the body to dedicate energy to healing and cellular repair, a process modern science calls autophagy. The afternoon and evening hours are reserved for intense meditation and study, which fasting aids by preventing the mental sluggishness and food coma associated with heavy evening meals. Furthermore, the method of obtaining food, pindapata or the alms round, enforces humility and non-attachment. Monks do not cook for themselves, they rely entirely on the generosity of the lay community. They walk silently, carrying their alms bowls, accepting whatever food is offered. This practice ensures several things. First, the food is simple and traditional, reflecting the local whole foods available. Second, it removes personal preference and gluttony from the equation. A monk eats what is given, cultivating acceptance and gratitude. They cannot demand a specific dish or reject an offering based on taste. This practice directly combats the modern obsession with hyperpalatability, foods engineered for maximum flavor and addictive consumption. The monastic meal is often a simple mixture of rice, grains, vegetables, and whatever else the community provides, promoting a diverse, whole food diet that is naturally low in processed ingredients. The ethical dimension of the monastic diet is equally crucial. The Vinaya strictly limits the types of foods consumed, primarily adhering to a vegetarian or near-vegetarian diet, depending on the tradition and local customs. The general rule is that a monk cannot consume meat if the animal was killed specifically for them, a rule designed to minimize harm and attachment.
This ethical framework inherently pushes the diet towards plant-based sources, naturally increasing the intake of fiber, vitamins, and complex carbohydrates, which are foundational to good cardiovascular and metabolic health. But the most potent medicine the monks derive from food is not the nutrients themselves, but the mindset with which they are consumed: mindfulness. During a monastic meal, the process is one of intense reflection. Before eating, a monk reflects on the purpose of the food. I eat this not for sport or for indulgence or for personal charm, but only for the upkeep and sustenance of this body, for ending affliction, for assisting the spiritual life. This powerful contemplation reframes the act of eating as a responsibility, not a pleasure trip. Every bite is an exercise in anapanasati, mindful awareness. They are trained to notice the texture, the taste, the smell, and the sensation of satiety. They eat slowly, deliberately, stopping when the body has received sufficient fuel, long before the point of uncomfortable fullness. This intentionality is the antithesis of the modern habit of distracted eating, consuming large volumes of processed food while staring at a screen, unaware of the body's signals of fullness, which leads directly to overconsumption and obesity. The monk's diet is therefore a holistic system of preventative medicine. The intermittent fasting regulates blood sugar and improves metabolic flexibility. The simplicity of whole foods reduces inflammation and chronic disease risk. The ethical framework minimizes environmental and spiritual harm. And the mindfulness transforms eating from a mechanical necessity into a spiritual practice. This ancient wisdom provides a stark contrast to the modern dietary landscape, which is characterized by abundance, speed, and manufactured desire. In the modern world, food is cheap, available 24/7, and designed by corporations whose primary goal is maximizing shareholder profit, not human health. We have replaced the gratitude of the alms bowl with the hurried convenience of the drive-thru. We eat continuously, disrupting our metabolic cycles, overwhelming our insulin response, and driving systemic inflammation. The food itself is often hyper-processed, stripped of fiber, loaded with sugar, salt, and industrial fats, making it nutritionally bankrupt and psychologically addictive. We are always full, yet perpetually malnourished. Our chronic diseases, type 2 diabetes, heart failure, gut issues, are not random misfortunes. They are the predictable physiological outcome of a diet defined by nonstop indulgence, lack of intention, and disconnection from the source of our sustenance. The monks treat food as medicine because they understand that every input has an output and that the body and mind are inextricably linked. A heavy, highly processed meal leads to a foggy, restless mind, hindering meditation. A light, simple, whole food meal promotes clarity, calm, and sustained energy, making spiritual work easier. They see the physiological effects of their diet not just as bodily health, but as a prerequisite for spiritual success. We, conversely, have prioritized instantaneous gratification and convenience, sacrificing long-term health and mental clarity. We seek quick fixes for the illnesses caused by our food, instead of using food as the primary tool for prevention and healing. The great irony is that the monks who live with minimal material possessions and often rely on food scraps provided by others possess a dietary wisdom that the richest nations on earth desperately need to reclaim. The ultimate healing power of the monastic diet is not in its exact composition, which can vary regionally, but in its structure and intention. The practice of intermittent fasting, the insistence on whole, unprocessed foods, the rejection of gluttony, and the cultivation of profound mindfulness during every meal are powerful mechanisms that reset the body's metabolic clock and restore psychological equilibrium. They teach us that true nourishment is not about caloric density or nutrient tracking, it is about reverence. When you view food as a sacred tool meant only to sustain your higher purpose, the compulsion to overeat and consume junk food simply dissolves. The monastic prescription is simple: eat only when necessary, eat only what is simple, and eat with absolute awareness. We may not be able to adopt the full monastic life, but the core principles offer a radical blueprint for modern health reform. Reintroducing periods of fasting, prioritizing whole, unprocessed foods that require preparation and intention, and most importantly, slowing down to eat without distraction are accessible steps that reintegrate the medicine back into our meals. The crisis of modern health is fundamentally a crisis of attention.
If we can borrow the monk's discipline to treat the act of eating with the same respect we give to any other important appointment, we can begin to dismantle the sickness engineered by the industrial food complex and rediscover the profound, innate healing power that the body possesses when it is properly fueled and respected. The path to health starts not with a new pill, but with a renewed intention at the dinner table. If this journey into ancient dietary wisdom resonated with you, share this video with someone struggling with their health, and let us know in the comments which monastic principle, intermittent fasting or mindful eating, will you integrate into your life first.